Okay, so here's the start of my DIY incubator. I'm building it out of an old freezer, which usually you can come by for free. I got this one for free. And took all the shelves out. We'll be modifying those in a little bit. But I'm just trying to get all the things out that are just going to be in the way to give myself as much space in here as possible to set up all the different gadgets I've got going in. This little fan came with the freezer, so I wired it up and it worked, so I was super pumped about that. Got just a little extension cord here that I wired onto it. 100% safe? I don't think so, but pretty safe, yes. So I'm gonna get this on the bottom and it should work perfect. So here I'm cutting out the rest of this insulation. This hole, like I said, is for blowing some fresh air up. This fresh air is for a couple things. Fresh air will help move the heat that's in the bottom of the freezer up and circulate it around the whole entire space. Also, this heat will be passing by either standing water or some kind of humidity creating device. I don't know what it is yet, but the air moving past either like wet sponges or towels will help a lot with creating some humidity, and that's super important for the last part of incubation. Okay, so here I drilled 3 holes in the bottom. In hindsight, I think this was too much. So these holes were for running electrical cords for all my stuff down and out. And I'm trying to keep them at the bottom because hot air rises, so I wanted to try to minimize my loss of hot air. But these, one of these holes being big was all right, I think, because I've got to get kind of the plug end of my appliances through them, but they didn't need to be quite this big. This is the hole saw that I had, and I figured I could use some more of that ducting tape to cover up any kind of space I didn't want air moving out of. So that's what I'm doing here. Okay, so I'm cutting out this metal lath here just so I can put it on the bottom of this shelf, and these chicks will have a little bit better footing, and I'm not worried about them falling through the cracks or slipping or anything like that. So I'll get it cut out here and get it installed. So here I'm using some duct tape, or like ductwork tape, I don't know what you call it, but it's like, looks like aluminum foil. Sticks really well, binds to itself and metal really well, and yeah, I just use it on all sorts of projects, but this is gonna be perfect to hold this wiring down. Okay, this is how I'm going to control the temperature. So this little cord here, it's going down and into the incubator. And this is reading the temperature on the inside. And this thing is supposed to turn on my heaters when the temperature is too cold and turn them off when it hits temperature so it doesn't get too hot. So this is going to control my temperature in here. And I'll probably set it to Fahrenheit. I'll get the exact temperature that I want, and I think it gets a little bit maybe cooler towards the last portion of the hatching. But I'll kind of fill you in on all those numbers and what to keep it at exactly. But so from there, this thing plugs into constant power, and I'll have my heaters plugging into, or my heater plugging into the bottom here. So the heater plugs in here. This goes to constant power, and it turns on my heater when the temp gets too cold, and then it shuts off power to the heater when it's at the temperature that we want in there. and I'll show you around front and see what it looks like. Here's where that cord comes in. And you notice I put this butyl tape on the outside and the inside. For one, it's going to help the sharp edges of the metal that I cut not damage this cord at all. And then two, I just love butyl tape and I use it anywhere I can. But this stuff is awesome. So yeah, I've just got it zip tied to the middle of this rack here. And this is the part that's reading. It'll be kind of in the center. And that's where I want to measure my, my heat. Okay, so my first attempt was to use this heat lamp, just one of them. And the reason for that is, I don't know if I mentioned already, but this controller, you can put up to 1,000 watts of heating elements on it. This is only 150, so I tried to use it by itself. It did heat it up to the temperature that I wanted, which is the 99 degrees, and then it shut off. But when I opened the door and shut the door, it didn't recover very fast. So then I tried to use something like this, because I had this heater right here. And this thing has some kind of, most of these like space heaters have like safeties on them and thermostats. So when it started to heat up, it got to like 80 something degrees real quick, and then it just shut off. So I'm not sure if there's some kind of safety feature on these, but just be aware of that if you're trying to purchase a heater or use a heater that's similar to this. So I'll show you what I ended up going with in a second, but yeah, another note, because they're gonna be hatching in here, I think I'm gonna make a little bit of like a safe, front rail. That way they can't work their way and fall off that shelf. So I'm working on that today. I've got the heater coming from Amazon. It was like 12 bucks. I'm gonna use one of those like coiled electric like portable cooktop things. The wattage is perfect. It's 1,000 watts, and it's got temperature control on it, and that should work for that. And then also, the only other thing that I'll need is just something to read temperature and humidity. I also got that from Amazon, about 15 bucks, and I'll link the ones that I bought, the ones that I recommend after doing a little bit of research. But yep, moving along. So here I'm making my humidity increasing device, or my humidifier, I guess. And I'm using some 3/4 inch PVC pipe, and I'm drilling a bunch of holes in it. That way it kind of acts like a sprinkler. I'm gonna have this sprinkler over the top of some old towels or whatever I can find to wick up some water. And that way I can add humidity when I'm in the lockdown stage and I don't have to open the door. So as you see, I have this PVC pipe running through the side of the freezer. I got the little holes here that will sprinkle the water over the top. That way when the door is shut, I can add water to this whole system. I have the pins there, but those ended up holding water too much and actually not letting it get into the air. So I'm just using towels and sponges, and that seemed to work a lot better. So here's the basic setup, and this drawer on the bottom here I flipped upside down so it's a little bit taller. I put this Rubbermaid lid underneath. For one, I'm gonna probably put some more towels in that, but it will also be a good way to catch some of the overflow water, because I won't be able to see all the time when I'm pouring water into this thing. So I kind of have a good gauge, but I want to make sure that I've got a little space to catch some overflow water there. So you can see here this, as I'm pouring water into the system, it's kind of sprinkling over all the towels and everything for this whole system. So that's exactly what I was hoping for, and it seems to be working really well. It's kind of covering everything pretty evenly. So okay, so it reached 99 and it shut off at 99. And then it's because you can see now it no longer says heating. So it went from 99 slowly up to 99.8. I think it's stopping there, and it's going to start slowly falling back down. So we'll see how this thing recovers once it drops, you know, back to that 99, when the heating kicks on, we'll see if it drops a good bit below 99 or if it recovers well and maintains heat. Okay, I don't know if you can tell, but this thing is at 95.9. There's 96. So 95.9 is the lowest it got to then. It just started going back up. I was gonna see how far it went down and show you, but yeah, so it got down to about 96. So I kind of want to give a little overview here on all the temperature stuff that I went through. So when I first got my new heater in there, it warmed up well. It shut off at that 99. And then it took a while to turn back on, and the heat dropped down to about 96 here, you see, or maybe a little bit lower. But as I actually heated up the freezer and like the sides got hot and everything kind of warmed up in there, the recovery time was much faster, and I had no issues with it dropping, you know, too low when I had it set at the temperature that I wanted. So just wanted to throw that in there. Like, as everything gets warmed up, the recovery time's a little bit quicker, and you're not going to have to worry about it dropping so low before this heater kicks back on. So I was able to regulate things much better once I got this heater in there for 24 hours. Okay, so thanks to our awesome neighbors and my awesome aunt, I got a bunch of farm fresh eggs. My aunt has 25 chickens and 1 rooster, and she said he's not super active, so I don't know what that means. So these might not be as fertile, or they might be great. And then these are from our neighbor, which I think should be great. I think I have, what was it, 7 dozen? 80 something eggs? 84? I can't remember, but there's a lot of eggs here. So tomorrow they go in, and I'm super pumped. I got the incubator leveling out at about 99.4 on an average, and then humidity is being controlled by that contraption I showed you yesterday. Okay, so here's the basic setup. I got the funnel on the outside where I can pour into my humidifier and control it when the door is shut. This is mainly for the lockdown period. My temperature controller here is reading 104, but I kind of have it averaged out through some thermometers inside as well. So that 104 is not actually the reading inside. Usually when it's saying this, it's about 100 on the inside of the freezer, which is right about where I want it. So it's 104 out here, 100 on the inside. So just take that into account. I'm just kind of taking averages of some thermometers. But I got everything set up. As you see here, I ended up adding a heat lamp right by where the fan is pushing up as well, and that seemed to help recovery a little bit. You know, just getting the thing hot once I shut the door after flipping or whatever. So here I've got all the eggs in. You can see the temperature has dropped because the door's been open quite a while. Got them all in. I've got them separated per who gave them to me, just so I can see which ones are fertile and which ones aren't. But I've marked all the tops of them just with a little line, with a little blue marker. That way when I flip them, I'll be able to tell which ones I flipped and which ones I haven't, because that's a lot of eggs to flip and try to remember. Okay, I wanted to go over the schedule really quick, and yeah, I kind of threw audio over the top of this, so disregard where I'm pointing. But when I first got the eggs from my neighbor and my aunt, I let them sit on the counter for a couple of days. I got them in the incubator around day 7. That means like 7 days from when they were laid. So I got them in the incubator around day 7 from when they were laid. And as soon as you get them in the incubator, that's day 1. Some people candle, which means like shining a flashlight through the bottom of the egg to see how fertile it is. Some people do that on day 1. I'm gonna do that on day 7. Depending on how that goes on day 7, I might not do it on day 14. Like if I'm confident that all of them look pretty good, I might not do it again on day 14, or I might, we'll see. But once you get them in first day, you want to be flipping them 3 times a day. 3 times what I went with. I think you could do it more, wouldn't be a problem, but 2 would be, I think, the minimum that people recommend. But just turning them over from one side to the next, that way nothing is getting settled or stuck to one side of the egg. So flipping them every single day. Day 14, like I said, I might candle again, but when it gets to day 18, the morning of day 18, this is when it becomes a little bit more crucial with the humidity. So day 18, they call it lockdown, And that means I won't be opening the door of the freezer, and I'm gonna be keeping a lot of water in there and trying to keep humidity up above 75, 80%. Not wanting it too high in the 90s or 100 because the egg can have too much moisture in it, and then you can, the chick might be able to drown actually in the egg. So I think 75 to 80 is what most people recommend. So that's what I'm gonna be trying to keep in there from day 18 all the way until day 21 when it's hatch day. Hopefully some of the chicks will be hatching on this day along with day 22. I think it's okay for them to stay in there after they hatch for a little bit. But on day 22, I'll probably be opening the door up and checking to see how many we got, and pulling them out and starting to get them in the brooder as soon as they look like they are dry. Because as soon as they hatch, they'll kind of have like a wetness to them. But as soon as they're dried up, I think they're okay to get in the brooder, put them by some heat, and get them comfortable in there. But all that will be in part 2. I just kind of wanted to go over the brief schedule of what's going to be happening, and I'll be kind of videoing along with this as well. But yeah, thanks so much for watching, and I'll catch you in part 2. And part 2 hopefully will fill you in on what kind of success we had through the whole thing, and I'm super pumped to see how many chicks we get. Thanks, guys.